This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic. What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is March 28th, 2022. Jonathan Osborne here. As always, I am joined by my co-host Luke Sylvia. Luke, the North Carolina Tar Heels are going to the Final Four. I called it there in the opening round against Marquette. You and Kevin laughed at me, and here we are. They're in the Final Four. You can add whatever context you want. That's fine.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Hey, they beat Baylor, and that's when they beat Baylor. I was like, okay, North Carolina might get themselves a seat in the national championship eventually, and it's looking good for the Tar Heels. They're not playing like an 8 seed, although I'm a little irritated with the Tar Heels right now because we were all Peacocks today. If you weren't a Tar Heel, so to see St. Peter's go down by, to lose by 20 is what it is. But you've got a star-studded, just like historical Final Four. You've got North Carolina and Duke and Villanova, Kansas. I think it should be interesting. Right now, the opening lines, Jonathan, Kansas favored by 4 right now. Duke 4.5-point favorite. So it'll be interesting. Those are going to be on Saturday. I'm excited to kind of see who ends up playing the national championship. You wanna give a prediction? You're gonna put your Tar Heels in the championship, right?
I want to very badly. However, I'm now wishing that the Tar Heels did not win Coach K's final home game at Cameron Indoor.
Yeah, might come back to get you.
Yeah, it's like one of
hard
those
to beat a
things
good team twice in a row.
Exactly. So, I just think the way that Caleb Love has been playing in the tournament has just been a revelation. I mean, he's obviously, like, the game against UCLA 27 in the second half was incredible. If he can play like that against Duke, obviously Tar Heels are going to be tough to beat. But, I'm excited. I would love to know what kind of wager Cole and Wendell are going to have on this game. Obviously, the UNC and the Duke alums. But what's crazy to me is that UNC and Duke have never played in the NCAA tournament, and now they're playing in the Final Four. That's pretty wild. It's like, it's not hyperbole or like an exaggeration or being a prisoner of the moment to say this is the most important game in the history of the rivalry, which is a crazy thing to say.
Yeah, no doubt.
To me, it's one of the best rivalries in sports. It's right up there with Yankees, Red Sox. It's
well known.
It's going to be exciting, very exciting. I'm sure the ratings for the game will be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be 8:49 Eastern on Saturday, right after the Villanova Kansas game.
Yeah, we got a pretty good UFC card coming up too, so I'm gonna be kind of jumping back and forth, but I'll keep my eye on the
screens.
UFC card.
Yeah. What let's see. Yeah, the Korean Zombie and Volkanovski, huh?
Yep, for the title.
Yep, Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan.
Yep, for the title.
Kazmat fights Gilbert Burns. Kazmat.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
There's some fights on there for sure. I'm excited to see kind of what happens there too. Man, what a weekend!
Night.
I'm ready for the weekend
a doozy.
Now. I'm already ready for the weekend.
I'm either going to be buying a national championship shirt in a couple weeks here. I'll be buying a Final Four shirt. I mean, either way, I'm getting a new shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right, Luke. Really quickly before we jump into the Tankathon, we want to shout out our wonderful patrons. Wonderful. You guys are so wonderful.
So wonderful.
Our wonderful patrons. Thank you guys so much for supporting us financially. We really, really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys so much. I'm not going to do the voice for all these patrons. Shout out Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Keith Garcia, Zico, Carson Tulo, Nathan Lynn, Ellis, Jonathan Borges, Norm L, Magic Player History, Julio Bailey, Matt Lyman, Eric Segovia, Gabe Gaines. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We literally would not be able to do this without you guys. If you are interested in supporting the show and getting a shout out on each of our episodes, you can find us at patreon.com/The Sixth Man Show. We have 3 separate tiers. Every little bit counts, and we shout out every patron no matter what tier you subscribe to. Again, really, really appreciate all of our patrons. Luke, we're going to spend some time this episode talking about the NBA lottery and the odds and, kind of how it all, comes out in the wash and everything like that. But before we do, we are going to go ahead and run a Tankathon, which is the 2022 NBA Draft Lottery Simulator. You can find it at tankathon.com. If you want to run your own lottery simulation, you get to run it once, and then you have to share your results. Those are the rules. People that have been following us on Twitter, we've been posting our daily Tankathon simulation recently, and it has not been going well for the Magic. Somebody actually tweeted us and said, if you guys are ever asked by the team to represent the Magic at the lottery, for all of us Magic fans, please say no. That's how bad our Tankathon luck has been so far. We're going to go ahead and run this one more time. If you're not familiar, again, tankathon.com. It's an online draft lottery simulator. Right now, Detroit Pistons are in the top spot. The farthest they could fall would be the 5th pick. The Magic can fall right now as far as 6th, but it's Detroit, Orlando, Houston, and then OKC. Detroit, Orlando, Houston are all 20 and 55 right now. OKC is 21 and 53. Detroit, Orlando, Houston, the top 3 spots, all have a 52.1% chance of ending up in the top 4. And a 14% chance of ending up with the number 1 overall pick. Drum roll, please. We're going to sim this lottery, Luke. Why is this taking so long? Maybe it's my internet. I'm at a new recording location. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll notice I am not in the same location. And the Magic fell all the way to 6, with Washington jumping 10 spots to the number 1 overall pick. Portland jumped 5 spots to number 2, and then Houston, Oklahoma City. Well, Houston, I guess, dropped down 2 spots. Oklahoma City jumped or stayed in the top 4, and then Detroit and Orlando dropped to 5 and 6. So that is an absolute nightmare scenario. Washington, Portland, Houston, OKC, Detroit, Orlando. So this is why people don't want us being there for the ping pong balls, because our luck so far when we run these has been absolutely terrible. I think we ended up with like 5 twice, 4 once. We got 2 once, and now we've got 6th. So, yeah. Not really ideal, folks.
Not great.
Not great at all. All right, folks, right now we're going to run down the weekly state of the Orlando Magic. So this week, your Magic went 1-2 with a win on Tuesday at home versus Golden State. And then a loss on Wednesday at Oklahoma City, 118-102. And then last night, we're recording this Sunday, but Saturday, they lost to Sacramento at home in overtime, 114-110. Again, the Magic are 20 and 55. They're right there in terms of standings, worst record in the league. Right now, they're actually below Detroit in the standings. I'm guessing that's based off of some kind of head-to-head tiebreaker. And in terms of the entire league, the Magic right now have the worst record in the league. Houston's just above them, and then Detroit is there. But in the case of a tiebreaker, they have all kinds of like lottery tiebreakers that they go through. Basically, it's like a coin flip to see where you're going to finish in terms of overall odds, if it's going to be 1, 2, or 3. So, I mean, if you're really worried about the lottery odds, we're hoping that the Magic can separate themselves a little bit. I don't think anybody expects the Magic to win the rest of their, 7 remaining games, Luke?
Yeah.
There's going to be some losses in there. Hopefully, Detroit, Houston, and OKC, those guys just win more games than we do. We're coming down to the nitty-gritty here. All right, we did not have... Were you going to add something?
I was maybe, I was just kind of, I know that the Magic have a top 10 hardest schedule remaining, I believe is what I saw. I think it's like number 9 or something. All tougher schedules than anybody else that's kind of in the running for the number 1 pick right now in the top 3 odds. But it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Like you said, a few percentage points. We'll get into that here in a minute and kind of talk about that and break that down, what that really looks like. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, speaking of the Magic schedule, so coming up here, and now my internet just does not want to load whatsoever. But coming up Monday, we'll be at Cleveland, 7 o'clock. Wednesday, you're at Washington at 7 o'clock. Friday, you're home for Toronto. Sunday, you're home for the New York Knicks. And then after that, to finish out the week, or finish out the season rather, Tuesday, April 5th, you're home for Cleveland. Thursday, April 7th, you're at Charlotte. And then Sunday, April 10th, you're at home, the last game of the season versus Miami. The time for that game still hasn't been announced. It's a little bit weird. I'm sure it's going to be 5 or 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. But yeah, you got a pretty tough schedule, to finish out the year. We'll talk more about our predictions on this week and the rest of the season towards the end of the show. But you're right, Luke. The Magic don't have an easy schedule the rest of the way here. So we did not have a Thursday show this week. Again, I was moving. We moved from my parents' house. We're now staying at my brother-in-law's as we prepare for our baby to be born at the end of next month. Just need a little bit more room as we wait to move into our eventual permanent residence. But yeah, that's the new look. That's why we didn't have a Thursday show, and that's why I'm exhausted, Luke. So we're going to break down the games here. So first of all, Tuesday, you're at home versus the Golden State Warriors. Before this game, there was a tweet from Andre Iguodala tweeting at the Magic that they needed to lower their ticket prices because Steph was not going to play. And my response was, do you guys lower prices at the Chase Center when Steph doesn't play? Of course you don't. So mind your own freaking business and keep it moving. The Magic are trying to, squeeze every last penny out of it as they can from this season.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Warriors come to town, the prices rise a little bit. Cut us some freaking slack. Everybody does it. It's not like the Magic are, inventing some kind of pyramid scheme. Shout out to Amway. I mean, let's just call it what it is. But yeah, anyways, I don't really care for Andre Iguodala anyways, but I just thought that was stupid. So the Magic, Luke,
and he doesn't care. He doesn't care about us, so it's all right.
Oh no, yeah, he didn't. It's not like he responded to the tweet. I'm sure he didn't see it. So
I'm just saying he doesn't care about like anybody besides like his circle anyway. Like you see him walking around. Like I was there for the Golden State game a few years back when the Warriors set the record for best regular season, and he just came in with his hoodie, head down, didn't say anything to anybody. Iggy's what we call too cool for school. And he's always been that way, and it's just so we don't care about him. He doesn't care about us. It's nothing new.
All right, well, whatever. He didn't play anyways. So, wait, is he still on the Warriors roster?
He's still there.
He is technically on the Golden State roster. Well, he's trash and old anyways. So, mind your own business, Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, he was with Miami though. You were right. Like he left Golden State, went to Miami for 2 years, did nothing, and then is back with the Warriors, who played 26 games so far.
Didn't he get traded to the Timberwolves? Wasn't he part of like the Andrew Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell deal, and then decided he just wasn't going to play for Minnesota, and then got bought out or whatever? Or I think he got traded to Miami. I don't know, but whatever. Forget that dude. Warriors did not have Steph Curry. He's still dealing with the foot issue that he, Marcus Smart literally dove at his foot a few weeks back. So no Steph Curry, but still very important, formative game for, the young Magic roster. Franz Wagner, 18 points. Wendell Carter, 19.7 of 12 from the floor. Cole Anthony, 14 points in this game. People that were complaining about this win, the people that were kind of arguing with them was it wasn't like, Gary Harris and Terrence Ross and Robin Lopez were leading the Magic to this win. It was the young guys that led the Magic to this win, Luke. And the argument that I put out there is this time of year, a team where, yes, they have Andrew Wiggins, they have Draymond Green, they still have a Klay Thompson, although he hasn't exactly been himself since returning to the Warriors. But those are still guys who have, they're battle-tested, have seen a lot in this league. And for your young guys to pull out a win over those guys, here we are in March. If the Magic were still losing games the way that they were in October and November, we would have a lot more worries than what draft pick we're getting in this upcoming draft. If the Magic were still as bad as they were in October and November, it would be a much bigger reason to be worried about this team than who are we going to be able to draft in June.
Right. Yeah, and I think that, the Warriors going into that game, Jonathan, like even Vegas knew they should have beaten us handily. I mean, they were favored by 7.5, and they were also in Orlando. So not that Orlando is much of like a home court advantage type of scenario, but Vegas takes that into context when they put out their lines. So Golden State being favored by 7.5, I don't think that win was nothing. Like you said, there was a lot of people out there that wanted to discredit the win and say we should have lost the game. We can get in percentage later, like I said, but in the grand scheme of things, I think that this does more for the Magic and that young core than it does for the lottery picture and where the Magic end up getting their pick at this year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's talk about Oklahoma City. Wednesday, the second night of a back-to-back, the Magic again with the win at Oklahoma or at home against the Golden State Warriors, then fly to Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder. This, of course, was a rematch of last week's game, which was literally a tank-off. The tank-off continued. No Wendell Carter Jr. in this game. Josh Giddey, we talked about this last week when we talked about the Thunder, Luke, but he has now officially been ruled out for the rest of the season with hip soreness. Anybody with half a brain saw this. The best thing, Luke, is in between, I think it was Sunday that we played OKC and then Wednesday when we played them again. In between those games, the Oklahoma City Thunder played Miami, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played against the Heat, but didn't play in either of the games against the Magic. Got into a little, tit for tat with some Oklahoma City bloggers on Twitter because I was saying that Sam Presti belonged in prison, and they thought I meant literally. Come on, it's not against the law to be awful and to force your team to lose, but it's just, it's not a good look. That's kind of as much as I'll say about that. But going into this game, again, Jalen Suggs is still out. You did not have Wendell Carter Jr. in this game. You did not have Markelle Fultz. It was the second night of a back-to-back. The Magic announced ahead of time that he would not be playing in the second game of this back-to-back. You still sit Gary Harris and Terrence Ross. You opt to go for Jeff Doughton, Admiral Schofield, and Ignas Brazdeikis off of the bench. Jeff Doughton played 30 minutes in this game. Ignas Brazdeikis, 22 minutes, 50 seconds. Admiral Schofield, 22 minutes, 53 seconds in this game. The Magic were just flat out trying to lose this game, Luke, and it being the second night of a back-to-back made it kind of easy to justify.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like you said, like you look at OKC's roster them. Theo Maledon puts up 25 points in 32 minutes. Krejci, 12 points, 11 boards. Like their biggest, I mean, they were lifted by their bench quite literally because they were having to play the Magic's bench of G League players, essentially, aside from Mo Wagner. They were, just to put some context into it, their bench, a lot of their guys were in the negatives in their starting lineup, 3 out of the 5, besides Roby and Poku. And then the bench was plus 25, plus 24, plus 33, plus 22. While the Magic, Ignas Brazdeikis has one of the worst plus minuses I've ever seen in my life. Minus 39. Minus 39. Mo Wagner, not much better. Minus 31. Admiral Schofield, minus 26. Doughton, minus 22. With the rest of the starters besides R.J. Hampton in the positives for the plus minus. So goes to show you, the bench for OKC just absolutely demolished the Magic's bench and contributed to the loss. So great job, guys.
So Ignas Brazdeikis entered the league in the 2019-2020 season as a 21-year-old rookie for the New York Knicks. He played in 9 games that season. The following season, he played in 13 games. Last season, he played a little bit for the Knicks, some for the Philadelphia 76ers, 8 games for the Magic last year. He's played in 35 games this season, more than the previous 2 seasons combined. I promise you, I feel so confident saying this, Luke. After this season, Ignas Brazdeikis will never touch an NBA floor again.
He's terrible.
He has to be one of the worst professional basketball players I have ever seen in my life. I know he's a very good G League player. He belongs in the G League. I would be shocked if he ever signs another 2-way contract or anything like that with any team in the NBA.
maybe this was a strategy, Jonathan. Maybe since OKC is going to be eternally tanking, I think that maybe Brazdeikis and his performance against OKC earned him a future spot on OKC's roster so that they can, sign to the G League and then pull him up for those tanking games that OKC plays for the rest of their lives, because I hope the tanking thing doesn't work out for OKC, and I hope they never rise to success for the next 10 years. So
we're going to see starting backcourt next year for the Oklahoma City Thunder down the stretch of Vit Krejci and Ignas Brazdeikis. That's the only thing that Sam Presti can possibly do to tank any harder to make this any worse.
Incredible.
I'm sure Ignas Brazdeikis is a fine fella. He would destroy us in basketball, obviously. Like, comparatively,
you and I are fine fellas as well,
garbage.
But we also we suck and wouldn't make it in the league, just like Brazdeikis. He's a great guy, just like you and me. Just shouldn't be in the league anymore.
Like, in terms of just comparing him to NBA talent, he is terrible. He is not a good basketball player. He's a good basketball player, obviously. He's in the NBA, whatever. But he's not an NBA player.
Comparatively, you prefaced.
I prefaced. I just, I don't want anybody in the comments being like, oh my God, he would kill you. Like, yeah, and I'll school you and your grandma. What's up, bro? All right. This was just a terrible, terrible, terrible game. The Magic, they did what they had to do. We're not proud of it. Let's just move on. All right. Last game we're going to talk about, Luke, the Sacramento Kings. Now, before this game, 8 games left. As it stands now, there's 7 games left. This is the part of the season where my eyes start rolling in the back of my head and my eyelids start kind of getting heavy as I watch these games, because we know that the results don't matter, but they do matter. They kind of matter. This game was actually kind of fun, for the Magic, kind of back and forth for a lot of the game. I just want to fast forward to the fourth quarter, Luke, because if it wasn't purposefully tanking, first of all, if it was purposely tanking, just an absolute masterclass in tanking the last couple of minutes of this game. Mm-hmm. If not, slightly concerning for the young core, because they literally wet the bed. Okay? So you are up. Cole Anthony hits a bank shot, okay, in the paint, with 2 minutes, 1 second left to put the Magic up 8, 105 to 97. 2 minutes, 1 second to go in this game. The Magic don't score the rest of regulation. Okay? Jones hits a free throw for the Kings to pull them within 7. DiVincenzo hits a 3 to pull them within 4, 58.9 to go. Franz misses a layup. Okay? The Kings miss a couple of shots, keep getting offensive rebounds. Trey Lyles makes a layup with 21.5 to go. And you're like, okay, the way that this is going to go, Magic are going to inbound the ball, get fouled. It's going to be free throws the rest of the way. Cole Anthony, the ball gets inbounded to Cole Anthony. He's got Davion Mitchell on him. With 14.2 seconds left, gets it stripped in the backcourt. Mitchell, wide, just obviously runs right to the rim, lays the ball in, 12.9 seconds to go. Chuma Okeke gets a really good look at a 3 at the buzzer, misses it. The Magic go into overtime, and the Magic lose 114 to 110, Luke. With 2 minutes to go, you're up 8. I'm sure the winning percentage was probably something like 99 or 99.9% that the Magic are going to win this game. You win this game 99 out of 100 times, Luke. And we saw the one instance. Like, this is just, every now and then, I'll just add a little, like, something to my notes. Like, oh, another reason why we might be living in a simulation. And last night was another one. Okay, this never should happen, but let's do it. Ever since 2020, it's like the whole world broke. Nothing makes sense anymore. Mm-hmm. Sure, the Magic up 8 with 2 minutes left. Lost the game in overtime. Why the heck not? It was honestly very impressive.
It was, and you look at the similarities between the end of regulation and the end of overtime. Both times it's Cole making that shot with 2 minutes to, in case of overtime, minute 51 left in the game. and then they go on to not score a bucket the rest of the game. So they do it in the fourth quarter. They do it in overtime, Jonathan. We see this so many times. Like we've seen it more times than you really should, and from an NBA team in the regular season this year, where the Magic play good enough to be in the game, and then with 2 to 3 to 4 minutes left, even they just don't score a bucket, and it's like, what are we like? What exactly are we doing? You know, like what do I gotta do to see some buckets scored in the final few minutes of these quarters? Because it looks like they just throw everything out the window. The other team starts to clamp up more defensively. The Magic start to make just dumber decisions. I don't know if is it them being young, Jonathan? Like, I know these players don't want to lose these games, but and I would like to think that Mosley, in some capacity, even though he's throwing out sometimes some weird lineups onto the court, he's still like drawing things up like a real game, like he should. So I don't know if it's just like they clam up because they're young and they don't know what they're doing, but it's like we can't do this forever. This has to go away. And it does draw some concern for like the future of like these guys aren't getting great reps in the closing minutes. Like they've had some great, some fun comebacks, but more often than not, there is a lot of games where they just don't score down the stretch, whether it be regulation or overtime.
So Trey Lyles misses a 3 with 1:46 to go. Cole gets the rebound with 1:44 to go. At that moment, the Magic had a 98.3% chance of winning this game and lost the game in overtime. Obviously, the players are trying to win. I just don't know like what happened in this game. Like, yeah, Franz just misses a layup basically at the rim with 43 seconds to go. He makes that, puts the Magic up again by 6 with 43 seconds to go, but he misses it. Now it's going the other way, and just like I think back. I don't want to compare the two. Obviously, they're very different, but T-Mac scoring 13 points in 30 seconds, right? Like everything has to go your way in that instance, and that is basically what happened. Like everything had to go the Kings' way the last 2 minutes of this game. And they did in dramatic fashion. Davion Mitchell steals that ball. I am just in complete and utter disbelief. I could not comprehend that was actually happening in the moment. This is my thoughts, okay? Like, we look at OKC, and I don't mean to keep ragging on OKC, but they're, like, tanking egregiously. The Magic are getting to the point where they're doing this egregiously, and I'm hoping that because we kind of played by the rules, like the first 70 to 72 games of this season, that this time the basketball gods would be like, you know what? You guys try to be competitive at the end. You realize you kind of had to do what you had to do. So we're going to repay you with some, nice bounces of the ping pong balls. That's all I can hope for at this point, because the Magic are like, you know what? It's time to do what must be done. And it's getting gross. It's getting egregious. Looking, at this Kings game, you start looking at the box score for the Magic. I mean, yeah, Cole, Chuma, Franz, Mo, RJ Hampton, that lineup played a ton of minutes in this game. I mean, you do get 19 minutes out of Terrence Ross, but Jeff Doughton, 20 minutes, Robin Lopez, 20 minutes. It's like, I don't know, maybe the Magic were trying to win this game. We don't see Schofield, we don't see Brazdeikis. We don't see Gary Harris. I know him and Terrence Ross are still doing this like kind of flip-flop thing, whatever. But man, I mean, it's not like anybody for the Kings. Like maybe you can say Alex Len played the lights out. 15 points, 6 of 8 from the floor. Dante DiVincenzo, 6 of 10 from the floor, 16 points. Like, I mean, this is a game that obviously the Magic could have won. You're up 8 with 2 minutes left. 99 out of 100 times you win this game. And the Magic found a way to lose, and hopefully it's just kind of one of those things like Lady Luck kind of tipping her hat to the Magic like, hey, you're trying to win this game, but I'm going to help you out a little bit here.
Yeah, put a little grease on those rims.
So we'll kind of see. Luke, let's talk about the lottery odds. I know you've got some stuff in front of you, and it's the hot topic on Twitter. It's getting people blocked. People are accusing me of blocking one individual in particular because he was a pro tanker. I don't give a rat's you-know-what if you're pro tank. There's no reason to start calling people names and attacking people personally. If you do that, I don't want to see that crap on my timeline. You're getting blocked. Disagree with whoever you want. That's fine and dandy, but it's a hot topic, Luke, and it's causing like another Magic civil war. We saw this last year, but I know you've got the odds in front of you. What are we looking at?
Yeah. So, looking at kind of the lottery in terms of like your percentages, Jonathan, you would think that the dialogue that's happening amongst Magic fans, you would think that if the Magic, tie for the, worst record in the league this year or get the worst record in the league this year, whatever it might be, you would think that chance at a number one pick is like the chance to stay in the top 4, which is at 52.1%. Compared to like dropping down to where OKC is with the second best odds of getting that top pick compared to the top 3 worst teams in the league, because everybody's coming at each other's throats about it. And it's like, I don't think you guys understand. Like, I don't think you guys have actually sat down and looked at percentages. Right now, Orlando has a 14% chance to get that number 1 pick, Jonathan. And if they drop down to where OKC is and they kind of flip-flop spots, the Magic just go down 1.5%. Like, this isn't substantial at all, Jonathan, and people are losing their minds about it. I get it. You want to have the best chance possible. But we all saw firsthand last year that having the best chance, the best odds, tied for the best odds at 14% doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't. 14% is such a small percentage. Like, if you tell me anything in my life, Luke, you can go do that. There's a 14% chance it'll happen, but you could feel free to go do it. I'm be like, nah. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to go do something that I have a much bigger percentage of getting, doing that, something else, because it's just not that big of a percentage. So I just don't understand it, truthfully, like why people are so up in arms about it. At this point, Jonathan, the Magic are too far behind, like the 5th spot Indiana Pacers, who have like the 5th worst record in the league, that it's just not really feasible, especially with the strength of schedule remaining for the Magic, that they're going to get down to that spot where Indiana is, which is still, by the way, a 10.5% chance instead of a 14% chance that number 1 pick. The biggest difference that I think it makes, Jonathan, from like from where Orlando is now to like the Indiana spot is the top 4 percentage, right? You're at 52.1% chance right now to stay in the top 4. And if you drop down to where Indiana is right now, you'd go down 10% to 42.1. But yet, you're still only like a 3.5% difference in that number 1 pick spot. So there's not a huge spot, but all I'm saying is that's not feasible. I think that the lowest the Magic can get is Oklahoma City range right now, which will put them at 12.5% instead of 14% for that number 1 pick, and 48.1% at top 4 instead of 52.1%. Still basically a coin flip, both 2% away from that 50% number. I don't think that the rest of this season really is that big of a deal for people to be getting in huge arguments on Twitter about if the Magic should be losing games or not. I'd rather win those games.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I know, like you said, the Magic have one of the toughest remaining schedules in the league. Houston has a top 6 easiest schedule in the league, and then Detroit's a few spots below us. We're at 9, Detroit's at 11, Houston's at 25, Oklahoma City's at 22. So you do have a chance that Oklahoma City and especially Houston might pick up a couple of wins towards the end here. Maybe you get lucky and Detroit does as well. They almost got one tonight against the Knicks. But I'm right there with you. I don't think it's worth burning down all of Magic Twitter over a win or what you thought should have been a loss, whatever the case may be. And what people are arguing is that the higher you finish in terms of the draft order, the higher, I guess, you can fall. If you end up number 1, worst case scenario, you can fall down to number 5. So right now the Magic at 2 could fall to 6, which would really be a crappy scenario. Last year the Magic I think finished in number 3 and we fell down to 5. We're really it's a crapshoot. The draft lottery now with the odds, since they've been changed, it's a total crapshoot. You just really have to sit and hope and pray that you get lucky. And my perspective is now at this point, the Magic did the best they could for most of the season to stay competitive. Yeah, now they're trying to crap the bed a little bit, it seems, with some of these lineups and rosters that are being trotted out there. But I am hoping that what we have endured this season, last year it was 2 months, and we're like, man, tanking for 2 months, it might make everything worth it. This season, it's been 6 months, and even longer than that. We knew this was coming, and we've endured it this entire season. And for us, I'm hoping that it pays off. Teams like Oklahoma City is tanking. You guys already have a potential all-NBA caliber player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Stop wasting him. Detroit ended up with the number 1 overall pick last year. Houston ended up with the number 2 overall pick. Seems like each team kind of got their guy. It's our turn. It's our turn for Orlando to jump into the top of the lottery there, and have their picking of a young stud to bring to the Magic. So, all right, Luke. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, we are releasing an article today from our very own Ryan Brock. The name of the article, the title is "Ranking the Most Important Players of the Magic's Future." Now, Ryan had all of us from the Six Man Show, myself, Luke, Kevin, Tim Jones, Ryan Brock as well. We all listed, 1 through 8 of what we thought were like the young core of the Orlando Magic. If you want to see kind of the average, I'll let you guys go ahead and check out that article. It's up on our website now, thesixmanshow.com. But I just wanted me and Luke talk a little bit about our core and why we ranked guys the way that we ranked them. So, Luke, do you want to start with number 1 and tell us who your most important player is for the Magic's young core? Or do we want to start at 8? Do we want to work our way up from the bottom?
Ooh, there's some spicy stuff there at the bottom, Jonathan. It doesn't matter to me what we do. I'm pulling up my rankings right now.
Let's start at the top.
We can start at the top? Okay. I'm finding them. Okay, got it. All right. So, yeah, my top, Jonathan, do you want to go like 1 for 1, or do you want to go like we list top 3, or do you just want to kind of react as we go? I mean, what do you
Let's go 1 for 1.
Okay. All right, gotcha. So my number 1 is who I affectionately call Win Daddy Carter Jr. He is my number 1 piece here. I love the guy. He's gotten the heart of a lot of Magic fans this year. I think that he is very consistent. I think that, even though he might not end up being the best, Jonathan, I think that we can look at him down the road and say he was one of the most pivotal, if not the most pivotal, just because he is so consistent. Someone you can rely on every night, does the little things well, makes everybody around him better. I've got Win Daddy Jr. In the top spot there.
So Wendell Carter comes in at number 2 for me. Number 1 for me is Franz Wagner. As much of a leap as Wendell has made, obviously rookie year for Franz has been incredible. He should be in the discussion for Rookie of the Year. He's kind of cooled off as of late. Maybe he doesn't finish, as the Rookie of the Year, but should definitely be in the conversation. I don't think he should finish any lower than 2 or maybe 3. I think that's up for debate. But I think that he has shown so far this season that he is the guy with the highest ceiling on the team. He's been incredible, exceeded all expectations, especially in terms of his offensive ability. I think he's shown that he can get to the rim whenever he wants. If he can hit the mid-range a little bit more, he's shown the potential to be able to knock down threes as well. Open threes, catch and shoot, off the dribble. He's kind of got all of the moves there. Can attack mismatches and slower guys that are guarding him. But I've got Wendell Carter at number 2 for all of the reasons that you just listed. Let's talk about number 3, Luke. Who is your number 3? It's a little controversial, I think.
Yeah, my number 3, Jonathan, is another Jonathan. People are trying to forget about him or can't seem to stop talking about him. It's really one way or the other. And Jonathan Isaac as my number 3 most important player of this rebuild, and as the young core of these guys. I think J.I. is a leader. Politics aside, everything outside of basketball aside, I think J.I. truly is a leader in the locker room. We've seen him do things like organize that young core, essentially that basketball, that team trip to Charleston, or the Chuck as they called it, back during the offseason. I think J.I. is a guy that takes initiative with his teammates on and off the court. I think that there's stuff left in the tank for him. Obviously, he's very young, but everybody's talking about him like these injuries are going to keep him out forever. And while it's easy to become pessimistic about J.I., in his play on the court, or his time off the court, I should say, in terms of like his injury, rehab, all that kind of stuff, his play on the court, man, I think that he showed us in the bubble what he can be. I'm hoping that he has now enough time to kind of get through, rehab through those injuries. I think J.I. could easily be in this top 3 spot, and we could look back on it and probably come to the conclusion that it's a good choice.
I wanted to wait until this point in the podcast when Jonathan got brought up in terms of the core to go over what we've learned this week. So earlier this week, or last week, now that you're listening to this on Monday, it was announced that after a few Tuesdays ago when the Magic came out and officially announced that Jonathan Isaac was going to be out for the rest of the year, and they said that he had no setbacks so far through his rehab, apparently later that day, Jonathan suffered some kind of minor hamstring injury, and he underwent a minor surgical procedure to help the right hamstring heal. It's the opposite leg of the ACL. The theory is maybe he was trying to overcompensate there, injured the hamstring. The Magic said it's still the expectation that he should be back for the beginning of next season. And now, obviously his future and his health is coming more into question. I do think it's fair at this time. I believe we actually did these rankings before the news of the injury came out, Luke. So I actually have Jalen Suggs at number 3. I have Jonathan Isaac a little bit further down the list. But Luke, what are your thoughts on the new injury with J.I. before we move on here?
I'll preface with I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I don't know what any of it means. So I'm not going to speak on it. Like, if this is what they're saying and whatever it is, I'm just ready for next season, Jonathan. I don't even care to talk about the uncovered injury. I know you did some research. You went out of your way to do that. You did your due diligence. I did not. I just know that he is not going to be back till next year, and I'm hoping that he is there on opening night in that starting lineup without a minutes restriction.
And people are now, kind of, and it makes sense, calling into question, the truth of the statements that Jonathan Isaac and Jeff Weltman gave, a couple of Tuesdays ago, where, they came out and said, oh, he hasn't suffered any setbacks. One thing that I know about Jonathan Isaac, I know Jonathan's not a liar. If he had a setback before that, I don't see him lying to the media about that. I don't see Jeff Weltman just flat out lying to the media about that. It does seem like a crazy coincidence. It sucks. It kind of feels like the team is cursed in a sense, but it is what it is. I think the Magic are at the point, Luke, where you can no longer assume that you're moving forward with Jonathan Isaac. I feel like you have to, kind of operate with the notion that you don't know what's going to happen with J.I., and you almost have to operate as if you wouldn't have him. As much as it sucks to say that, we've seen enough now. He's kind of had a setback in the injury rehab now, obviously, and you just have to operate in the future like you're not going to have Jonathan Isaac. And if you do, it completely changes the outlook of this team. But I don't think it would be responsible to operate, assuming that you're going to have J.I., as unfortunate as that is. But let's get back to the list here, Luke. So number 3, I have Jalen Suggs. Obviously, the Magic took him this season with the 5th pick in the draft. We saw him show flashes of being an elite on-ball defender in Jalen Suggs. Showed some flashes offensively. Needs to get in the gym and come back next season with a 3-point shot. Tighten the handle up a little bit. But I do think Jalen Suggs is still super, super talented and shows tons of potential on both ends of the floor. Luke, who do you have at number 4? We actually have the same number 4, so I'll let you take the floor here.
Yeah, my number 4 is Markelle Nagai Fultz. Back in the lineup, has been showing some great flashes when he does play. I think that, it's not necessarily obviously you might look at Markelle's stats, from his time in Orlando and just say, how could you have him at number 4 over a guy like a Jalen Suggs, who I have at number 5, right? How can you have him over Jalen Suggs? For me, it comes with the fact that I've seen how much this team turns around when Markelle Fultz is on the court. I'm not super high to defend Jalen Suggs in a lot of scenarios, right? I think he is a great defender. I just don't know yet what he's going to become. I think there is more uncertainty about Jalen Suggs than there is Markelle Fultz. I think Markelle Fultz's impact goes beyond his shot. I think Jalen Suggs absolutely needs to develop a three-point shot. Where with Markelle, I don't think he has to. But I think that Jalen Suggs, in order for me to have him higher on this board, I would have needed to see more from him this year. Markelle, just what I know about him, obviously Markelle's got the advantage because I've seen a little bit more from him. But also at the same time, I just have seen the impact that Markelle has on the court, and I think that that's why Kell's in my 4 spot.
Yeah, I think I still have Jalen just a touch above Markelle Fultz, just because I feel pretty confident in saying we're kind of seeing, or we're pretty close to what's going to be the 3-point shooting of Markelle Fultz. He's probably never going to be the guy that he was at Washington. Jalen, definitely needs to improve in that area, but I think the paths forward for either of those guys becoming a really good 3-point shooter, Jalen definitely has a more clear path to that. And I think if that opens up for Jalen Suggs, it's going to open up the rest of his game. We already know defensively he's going to be elite. So I think if Jalen Suggs can round out the offensive game a bit, we're looking at a guy that could very easily be an all-star. Markelle Fultz at number 4, I still have him as a guy who has a path forward to becoming an all-star. Obviously, capable defender, great playmaker. If he can get to the 18 to 20 points scoring a game, and the Magic are competitive in the East, I think there's still a path for Markelle to become an all-star. People love him. They love the name. They love the story. Still think there's a path for that for Markelle, but just Jalen is younger and I think still has a little bit more upside, but I'm right there with you, number 4 with Markelle Fultz. Number 5, we've already talked about Jonathan Isaac, but I have Jonathan Isaac still part of the core. I still think if he can come back and is healthy, he's a total game changer for this franchise. If it wasn't for the health, I would probably have Jonathan number 2 or potentially number 1 on this list, Luke. But you have Jalen number 5. I know you just talked about him a little bit. I don't know if you have anything to add or if you want to get into to number 6.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty much my summation of Jalen Suggs. He's a great defender. Just needs to kind of fine-tune some things, as any rookie does. Just didn't see as much out of him this year as I would have hoped. For a number 5. I think a number 5 pick in the draft, especially who was projected to go 4. But I think that Franz and what he has done this year really has kind of put a damper on Jalen Suggs in his rookie year, comparatively, right? Like, it's hard not to put them side by side all the time. And for me, Franz is obviously in a higher point. He's my number 2 on the list. And I think that Jalen has a path to become a great basketball player. He's got he's got some of the tools already. He's just got to put some things together. So I think that it's really all I have to add about Suggs at my number 5.
Number 6, Luke. We have the same player, Cole Anthony. Do you want to take the floor?
Yeah. I think it's funny, and it's how the NBA season works. It's such a long season. If you ask us this question, like if we are writing this 20 games into the season, and Ryan does a good job of framing up obviously the explanation for all of these, so definitely go check it out. But if you look at kind of his splits from the first 20 games, we've done that enough. I don't need to explain that to you guys. His shooting splits were so much better at the beginning. Were better. His 3-point percentage mainly was the biggest split. We talked into that last week, where like his field goal percentage isn't a lot greater than it is now, but it also, that 3-point percentage is a little bit better there than was a little bit better there than where it is now. We've kind of seen this dip from Cole. So if we were to do this before the season, or like 20 games into the season, I think that it wouldn't have been outlandish to say Cole was number 1 on that list. I remember there was a point where I was ready to say, and I think a lot of us were, Cole is the best player on this team. And now it is pretty sad to look at this list and see Cole dropping to 6 on my list, where he definitely was at 1. So with Cole, man, it's just a roller coaster with him. I'm sure he feels the same way. His shooting just isn't effective enough. I think he is a solid 6-man candidate for any good NBA team. I think that he could absolutely come off the bench, provide a spark, get a run going, get their team back into the game single-handedly. He has that potential, but I just don't see it enough for me to put him any higher than 6 on this list, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think if you look at Jalen and Cole, and you just kind of look at obviously Jalen is the bigger guy. He's stronger, a little bit faster. Both have their struggles shooting the ball. Right now, Jalen more so than Cole. But I think just the eye test tells me that, especially Jalen having the potential to be an elite on-ball defender, Jalen just projects a little bit more successful for me in terms of a long-term starter in the league. With Cole, the offense, it just is what it is. It's a little bit too erratic. Now, if he comes back, next season and is looking like he did at the beginning of this season and is somewhere, 36 to 37% as a three-point shooter, I think that is going to do wonders for Cole. I think right now that's the big part missing from his game is just knocking down the three ball efficiently. Still able to get to the rim. He's shown that he can improve as a finisher around the rim, and in terms of developing a floater, I think that was one of the developments that we saw earlier in the season that's kind of died off a little bit. He was finishing really efficiently at the rim to start the season, but we've seen flashes of that he can improve. I don't know if it's in his head at this point. I don't know if it's mental, psychological, whatever the case may be, but Cole is not playing up to the level that he was at the beginning of the season. And if what we've seen the last 50 some odd games from Cole is any indication, if this is more who he is than the first 20 games or so of the season, I'm right there with you. Cole is definitely more of the 6-man kind of spark plug off the bench. Luke, we again have the same player at 7. We have Chuma Okeke. Chuma, I guess I'll take the floor on this one. Chuma, again, slow start to the season, kind of with the hip injury, but has really come along really, really nicely. Multifaceted player, great defender, capable shooter, capable playmaker as well. He's kind of showing us bits and flashes of why we called him Baby Kawhi last season as a rookie. But Chuma, still needs to become, more consistent. I think we all can agree on that. But the playmaking, the basketball IQ, the defense is always going to keep him, I think, as a quality role player in the NBA. And if he can continue to develop the three-point shot and consistently be around 37, 38%, somewhere around there, he's could be one of the better 3-and-D players, a little bit of playmaking in the league. Luke, what about you? What do you think of Chuma?
I think that, it's been no secret. I've not been the highest on Chuma throughout the year, right? I mean, there's been times where I've been, more than willing to give him his props on the show, but at the same time, I'm always willing to supply kind of the negative side of things with Chuma. I think that if you look at his last 20 games, he is great at the 3-ball right now. He is shooting 36% in his last 20 games on 6 attempts a game. But on the flip side, almost 9 field goal attempts a game, shooting 37%, 37.5% from the field. Defensively, he gives you a lot, right? But unfortunately, this is a game that requires you to play both sides of the ball. And Chuma just isn't a guy that I could see putting over any of these guys that we've listed prior. Obviously, you feel the same way. Now, the beauty of this, Jonathan, is that you and I could revisit this next year at the same time, and we very well, maybe we do. Maybe that's an episode, Jonathan, that we set up, a year from now, just kind of to look back on, see where we stand now, and see, man, we were stupid for having that, this guy here on this list. We should have had this guy lower or higher. That's the beauty of this, is that we can look back and admit that, we didn't see it at the time, but now Chuma maybe jumps up a couple pegs next year. But as of now, from what I've seen with Chuma, I'm going to keep him at number 7. He doesn't really blow me away by any means, but he is a solid player. He is a above average defender. He just needs to put it more together in terms of driving to the basket, getting around the rim, and finishing there as well.
And who do you have number 8, our last spot?
Our last spot. This is some of you guys might be start yelling at your car, your car radio, and you hear me say this. My last spot is RJ Hampton. And that's where my list runs out, Jonathan.
RJ Hampton at number 8. I went Mo Wagner. I like what we've seen out of RJ Hampton at times in terms of like the catch and shoot ability, some of the defensive potential that he's shown. But for me, that's kind of where it ends with RJ Hampton. Obviously, super athletic kid, hasn't quite figured out how to use it, and that's kind of what keeps him off of my list here. Mo Wagner, you know what you're getting from Mo every single night. You're bringing an edge that I'm not sure any other guy on the Magic brings. You're bringing energy that you're going to get every single night. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He can defend and rebound a little bit as well. But really just the swagger, the confidence, and the edge that he brings, I feel like is just infectious for the other guys when they're on the floor. I feel like the only other guy that you might be able to say that about is Cole Anthony, which I do think that carries a lot of value for me in terms of the culture of this team and guys that you need in the locker room. I think Mo's also been great for Franz Wagner this year. The Magic have the opportunity to bring Mo back next year. They also have the ability to waive him, before I think it's June 6th of this year. I might have that wrong, but his second year is not fully guaranteed, so I'm hoping the Magic do bring him back. But RJ, it's just too wishy-washy for me. You never know what you're getting from RJ on a given night. The shooting's been there, but basically everything else, you just don't know what you're going to get from RJ Hampton on a given night. Luke, there's one player in particular, I want to give you about 30 seconds that we left off the list, Mo Bamba.
Yeah, Mo for me, man, it just feels kind of like a good as gone situation, to be honest. And that's no intel, obviously, because the front office hasn't put anything out, but I just feel like he doesn't give you enough. I mean, the man is 7 foot plus. He's huge. I can't depend on him in the post by any means. We've seen it many times. We've said it so many times on the show. It seems like there's a mismatch. With any other 7-footer in the league, you called a mismatch. It's not one. He passes out of the post. He misses a shot. Can't take advantage of it. If you like a guy who just sits out at the 3-point line and can hit threes, then great. But Mo Bamba on the court as a 7-footer, being that big, he needs to be able to be a guy that you can depend on in the post. I think defensively he's a great shot blocker. I think he alters shots. I don't think he's a good defender. I think that I just didn't put him on the list. And I did want to add one thing to this, Jonathan, not in regard to Mo really, but just like this list, right? I mean, it is a long list. You could stretch this out to Mo Wagner and Mo Bamba and make this a 10-player list. The reality is all 10 of these guys aren't going to be on the team for this rebuild. They're going to have to cut ties. They're going to have to bring veterans in. I hope they bring veterans in. I'm not high on RJ Hampton at all. I just don't feel one way or the other really about RJ Hampton. Mo Bamba. I don't really like watching RJ Hampton play, so I guess I do feel some type of way about RJ Hampton. But when it comes to Mo Bamba, I just think that he's going to be out the door maybe a little bit sooner. RJ might be just like last guy on the bench. Maybe really doesn't play much at all. And I think that the reality is, Jonathan, all these guys aren't going to be on the roster for long term. Magic are going to have to make decisions. I don't see RJ Hampton in those terms. I don't see Mo Bamba in those plans. And I wouldn't mind Mo Wagner in those plans. So maybe I should have put Mo Wagner at 8, to be honest.
For what it's worth, if this went to 9, I probably would have Mo Bamba at 9. But we've said this a million times on this show. He just hasn't shown enough, frequent enough. The future is set at the center position for the Orlando Magic and Wendell Carter Jr. I don't think there's anybody that would argue that at this point. And I don't see Mo Bamba as accepting a bench role,
no,
here in Orlando. And maybe he can be part of the future of this team. I wouldn't say he's part of the core. I do feel like Mo is replaceable in a sense. Maybe you don't get a guy that's as impactful as a shot blocker, but I think you probably could go out and find a backup center that's a bit more of a better, one-on-one defender and is able to kind of prop the defense up that way. So that is basically going to conclude our list. Luke, the last thing I want to do is just take a look at the week ahead. Again, Monday at Cleveland, Wednesday at Washington, Friday at home versus Toronto, Sunday at home versus the New York Knicks. What do you think happens?
I think the Magic go 0-3 this week, Jonathan. It's been a while since I've given the Magic an offer. The Tankers are salivating over that 1.5% at that number 1 pick, and me saying that they're gonna go that they're gonna lose these games this week. You play the Knicks. I think that you've beat the Knicks enough times this year. I think that the Knicks aren't going to have it again. And, I think it'll be kind of a pride thing for the Knicks not to have a losing record to the Magic this year.
Yeah, there's 4 games, actually, Luke. You said 0-3 there, but there's 4 games this week. I think the Magic, at this point, they've kind of showed their hand. I'm probably right there with you. I think the Magic are going to do whatever they need to end up to lose these games. If we don't see Wendell Carter for the rest of the year, I wouldn't be too surprised by that. If we don't see Jalen Suggs for the rest of the year, I wouldn't be surprised about that. If we start to see guys like Gary Harris and Terrence Ross both sit out these games, wouldn't be surprised about that. The only thing that I think is for certain is if Franz Wagner is healthy enough to go these last 7 games, I think we do see him play. I think he's going to try to go for all 82 games, which would be a heck of an achievement, especially for a rookie. And I'm actually, that's one of the main things I'm rooting for the rest of the way. Health, obviously, but hopefully we can get Franz Wagner healthy to the finish line to start and play in all 82 of these games. I think that would be awesome, Luke. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
All right. Well, you guys are listening to the Six Man Show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, for Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys are listening to the Six Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to the Six Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and Stitcher to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. Please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It would really help us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram @Six Man Show and like us on Facebook. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic.